Alcohol.
I don't drink alcohol.
I drink socially.
Now that I'm 21, I can obviously go out drinking whenever I want.
Each of them has had a parent who is among the 12 million Americans suffering from alcoholism. This according to a USA Today nationwide poll. According to MedicineNet, alcoholism is defined as a destructive pattern of alcohol use that includes tolerance to or withdrawal from the substance. It also includes using more alcohol or using more than planned and trouble reducing its use. This disease has truly affected each of their families.
I was always afraid for those hours that I wasn't home, that my dad would be alone or be drinking too much.
We felt like maybe he was drinking because we weren't being good kids.
And the hardest part was the distance that it caused between us, because he literally just disappeared out of my life and one day went from being my best friend to a complete stranger.
Alcoholism is considered a family disease. Even if only one member is addicted to alcohol, all are affected. According to ABC News, 1 in 10 children grow up with an alcoholic parent. Jillian Doherty was one of those children.
My dad, he would sleep until noon every day. He held a job and was still able to make money, which is, remarkably incredible. But he'd be drunk on phone calls, like business phone calls.
Doherty first figured out her father was an alcoholic when her family began pushing him to enter rehab for the first time.
They sat me down and they said, we don't want you to talk to your father for a few days. We just want to try and, see if there's any way that we can rouse in him, okay, fine, I'll go.
Doherty's father was resistant towards seeking treatment, which was difficult for her to understand.
He was so stubborn about not going to rehab, and I was like, why don't you want help? This is the clear option. Why aren't you trying to take it?
After learning more about his past, Doherty grew to develop a deeper understanding of his drinking issue.
Oddly enough, I've been able to connect with him on a much more personal level, because I understand that is because of the terrible things that he went through that caused him to self-medicate himself.
Through her father's struggle with alcohol addiction, Doherty has learned a lot about the disease itself.
They go to alcohol and drugs and everything because they have nowhere else to go.
Karen Athos remembers the first time she knew her father was an alcoholic.
I was on the way to the beach with my dad, and there was a brown bag on the seat next to him. And it was 7 o'clock in the morning.
Both of her parents suffered from an addiction to alcohol. However, she wasn't aware of her mother's problem until it was too late.
I didn't realize it with my mother until she died. And even then, everyone lied to me and told me she died of cancer. So I didn't know until my brutally honest stepmother told me to wake up one day and realize that she had died from cirrhosis of the liver.
According to the Awareness Center, this dishonesty can rub off on children of alcoholics. Children of alcoholics tend to lie more in situations because they are used to lying about their parents' drinking to others as a child.
It was a different time back then. They drank. Everybody drank. They would come home from work and first thing make a highball. I was 7 and I was making my parents highballs.
Athos realized she couldn't force her father to do anything he didn't want to do.
You can't try to take a bottle away from an alcoholic.
Despite the drinking issue both of her parents had, Athos isn't worried about becoming an alcoholic herself.
I think a lot of people tend to use alcohol as an excuse, and I didn't need to do that, so it's never been a problem.
Colleen Driscoll didn't originally pick up on her father's alcoholism.
He's always been an outgoing person, and I thought he was just outgoing, and I now realize that he was drunk when he shouldn't be.
Driscoll's father's drinking spiraled out of control after her grandfather died.
When I was a freshman in high school, my mom told me that he was doing extra plowing hours and that it was going to be a couple months, and that's whatever. So they just told me that his working shift was weird, and then 3 months goes by without seeing or speaking to my father, and I realized that he wasn't actually working.
However, the crumbling of her once strong relationship with her father wasn't the only effect her father's alcoholism had on her.
I'm a lot more closed off because the one person who was my best friend growing up disappeared one day, and even though I know consciously that's not going to happen, I still have a subconscious fear that everyone's going to do that.
Driscoll is also very cautious about her own drinking, and with good reason. According to Public Medical Health, 1 in 4 children of alcoholics become alcoholics themselves. So what effects does having an alcoholic parent truly have on a child?
A big part is having instability in the home environment. When I kind kind of look back. I mean, there's many aspects of that because there's going to be the bond between the parent and child. So I think depending on the degree and the style of alcoholism, that could be really affecting that bond.
Dana Ingersoll is an addiction therapist who has worked with both alcoholics and children of alcoholics.
There's always that scar, right? There's always these ways where the parent was unavailable. There are often, bad memories that are there.
According to the Livestrong organization, other effects of having an alcoholic parent include extreme anxiety and a distorted view that the only way to have fun is by consuming alcohol. Ingersoll acknowledges that it is really the child of the alcoholic's choice whether they should drink or not.
Am I just doing this in a way that's really controlled and in the right setting, or do I notice that I'm thinking about it as a way to deal with being overwhelmed with whatever emotions? And as soon as that pattern becomes visible, then I would really stop.
Ingersoll also stressed the important notion that children of alcoholics are never alone. In Boston, I'm Logan Leavitt.